motto my whole life's been try or die. True. I'm just trying to glow up looking like a firefly. Yeah. Life is flying.
2, 1. Gotcha.
Hey guys, this is episode 22 of the Frank and Jules Podcast. We do have a very special guest today, Patti Brewer here. She's a plant-based chef. Honestly, if you've gone to her Instagram or her website, you'll see some great meals. She's probably converted me into potentially maybe going more plant-based. I don't know. But yeah, I think personally on this podcast, we try to have people that are, in different spaces, wealth and wellness.
Yeah.
And Patti was just someone that, I've known for quite a bit, and just kind of we just reconnected and just, want to have her on to kind of discuss her journey, especially how she's gotten to this point. And take it over. We'll just say, so Patti, how did you get started into your wealth and wellness journey?
Listen, if you want to speak wealth into this, I will take it.
Health and wealth.
No, but listen, wealth, it's a new moon. Let's kind of like manifest that.
There you go.
I started cooking probably 20 years ago now.
Okay.
But I would say I've been back and forth vegetarian my whole life. I never really digested meat very well. And there was just always something very chewy about it for me.
Okay.
And so I guess about 10 years ago, I started focusing solely on vegetarian and then pescatarian. And then I'd say 5 years ago, I started really getting into the whole vegan lifestyle. Which is honestly, you have to completely teach yourself how to cook all over again, because everything that you knew is you have to go about it a different way. But it's been so fun.
That is, that's quite amazing. I think, so the journey from going from pescatarian, I know people say fish, they'll say it's not regular meat or whatever it is, but what was it for you that you're like, well, I need to kind of not eat that as well, or a lot less of that basically?
So the pescatarian thing was really hard for me. I grew up by the shore, and my first job was at a fishing boat. So catching local fish and, sea to table was my thing. And I thought I would never be able to give it up. And then I guess the more research I started to do, I guess I should probably preface with the whole fact that I got into veganism because everybody has a very different reason. And the reason I kind of went this direction was I feel responsible for what I do and how that affects other people. And so if you eat meat or you eat meat, it doesn't bother me. That's your decision, that's your journey. But for me, I started to look around and see, okay, well, it's not just going fishing. It's going fishing, and then this is polluting this, and that person's being exploited, and that area is being exploited. And it just became very heavy for me. So it was kind of I wasn't enjoying the fish because it felt bigger than what I was eating. And so that was it became easier. I would say I gave up fish completely because I was eating it once a month up until a couple of months ago. I saw Seaspiracy, and then that was it for me. I was okay, I don't even need to partake, because I was oh, well, if it doesn't have a face, if it's scallops, it's fine. And it was no, I can't even do that.
Yeah. I think when we talked earlier, just to kind of connect, and we brought up the Seaspiracy concept, and how I think was it called buy fishing? Is that what it was called? Where they're trying to catch a certain fish, and then they're collecting other fishes and then killing them and throwing them back into the ocean. So I think after watching that, it really, that was more of a wake up call, because I think I thought personally as well, oh well, I'm not going to I'll eat less chicken and less beef, but I'll eat more fish. But you realize that ecosystem, it's very integral to our planet. So I think I'm definitely more aware. It just sucks because I'm Caribbean. So I even just had fish today. Unfortunately, my brother came here from Charlotte, and we're just making.
Don't feel bad. I'm never here to make people feel bad about what they eat. It's more so just to show a different way.
That's true. That is very true. I mean, Frank, you're a big Italian, so I think this is something for you that I don't know if you could ever be. Or maybe you could. I don't know.
I've tried. I did a vegan challenge about 4 or 5 years ago, and I just tried to go. I just tried to do it for like a week because I just was like, let me just try this. I have a couple of friends who are vegetarian, and we were just talking one day, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go a step further. I'm not even gonna do what you guys would do. I'm gonna just go one more extrime. So I decided to do that. But I thought I felt good. Like I felt really good actually. It was probably hard for me to get the proper meals that I should have had. Like I ended up just like the first day, I think it was like Chipotle, but it was like, no, it was like the peppers and onion, like whatever the burrito is that whatever you can put in there to make it a burrito without the meat, I did. And it was like, I was like, this isn't that good. but obviously there's a lot more like broader like meals out there. I didn't do it like a thing where I was cooking. I just ended up going out and like either ordering takeout from a place and just like getting something that was vegan. Like I remember getting Chinese food one night and I was like, oh, they have like vegan General Chow's chicken. I was like, that sounds interesting. Like I'll get that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, obviously, I guess I don't know if Patty, you know about that, but I guess it's like maybe is it flour and is the substitute for like the texture of the chicken? I have no idea, but it tasted pretty good. I was like, this is pretty solid.
Yeah. So Asian cuisine, Mediterranean cuisine, they're really good at that. You probably were having something with soy and vital wheat gluten. So vital wheat gluten, when you add that in, it adds this texture of like chicken or and a lot of plant-based chefs use that. I'm not a fan of it. I don't know why. I just never really got into the whole texture of it. But yeah, most of the like chewy or like chickeny or steaky type things comes from like a seitan, which is, the vital wheat gluten.
Gotcha. Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And what you said about, going vegan, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No.
Oh, no, yeah.
When you said about going to like Chipotle or whatever, I think that's everyone's biggest issue. And I don't think it's just with eating plant-based. I think most people don't like to cook. I think most people don't have time, especially in this country. Like we're always running from one thing to the next, and take the pandemic out, which was we're already kind of like having amnesia over that. But in general, I think that it's hard for people to nourish themselves and make healthy decisions. So when you add a layer on that, which is less accessible and a little bit more intentional, it gets a little bit dicey. But they do have sofritos at Chipotle, which is a vegan substitute, which is delicious.
Okay.
I did have actually, I did have that. Actually is good. I've had that. I've actually been there just outside of doing that challenge. Like I would get it just I would just get that instead of chicken. I was like, this actually tastes pretty good. So like I'm like open to eating pretty much anything, and like if it's healthier or if it like makes you feel better, then I'm all for it. I probably never could permanently change to vegan because of liking like obviously like burgers and like the chicken or whatever, like the normal like couple like things like that, like and even fish too. Like if I had to go that far of a switch, I guess pescatarian would probably be the farthest I could even make it, because I do like seafood. But I see like there's a lot of value for sure like in eating that way, especially like what you said for you personally. It's like it wasn't all about like I guess maybe like a cause or so. It was more like you just like digestion wise or whatever, just feeling good. It felt like that was like what you wanted to do.
Well, it was like, again, it was like feeling accountable for what I was doing. I think it was at a time in my life where I was trying to be more intentional in all aspects, like, mental health wise, emotionally, spiritually, like what am I actually putting in my body? And all of these things correlate. So like how you feel physically is, you don't put regular or diesel fuel in a premium car. We're premium cars and we're not putting the proper fuel in our systems, and we have cancer, we have, all these heart defects, and they're all directly correlated to what we're putting in our bodies. And that's not just food. That food is the physical form that we can, it's tangible, and we can say, okay, this is where I can start making those decisions. But once you start making those decisions around that, it makes you really care about yourself a little bit more and like love yourself a little bit more. And then other areas of your life do start to expand as well. So you start not to feel so foggy. Like I didn't feel foggy anymore. I didn't feel, I felt like I wanted to work out. Like I had extra energy and I wanted to work out, and I didn't feel like full or like heavy after I ate things anymore. And so I think if you're feeling depressed and you eat a certain way, it's like you're down and then you double down on it. But if you're depressed and then you eat like an apple and some almond butter, you're not like, it's not a double negative. So you might like get a little bit of energy. Whereas if you eat sugar and like pizza and stuff, it brings you down a notch. So it's kind of trying to marry all of the aspects of what makes us as humans through putting the proper fuel, and everything else kind of runs better.
That is very true. I think I would want to bring this back to a conversation we've had actually earlier about like lower income communities, where I feel like a lot of the foods there, like a lot of the saturated fat foods, fast food chains are more prevalent there. A lot of liquor stores per like corner versus, when you go to a town like Montclair or Caldwell, like you see a lot more healthy things, a lot more vegan substitutes. And I think you brought up a good point of like, you were trying to do things to change that with some of the meals when you started your company. We'll get into that a little bit later, but like a lot of your, like for every person, like for everything that you make, you also make, for, people in those communities to kind of show them that there's other options, essentially, healthier options.
Yeah. So it's like, once you start one place, it keeps expanding, right? And in my job, I focus on the healthcare market. And so I've done that in a lot of different capacities over the last 12 years. And I've noticed the healthcare disparities from city to city, town to town, zip code to zip code, on what's available, what doctors are available, what services are available. And as I saw that, because that like you focus on what, you zero in on what you're focused on. As I was changing my diet and I was in some of these areas, I was like, I don't want fried chicken. I don't want Popeye. Like, I don't want, there's a liquor store on every other corner. And I think it's designed that way. I do. And I think because the town has to allow for zoning. And so whereas that wouldn't be allowed in one zip code, it is in another. And you start to think like, well, why are there so many of these types of restaurants? And why is like, how come there's no farmers markets? And how come there's no real access to real vegetables? It's all processed juices. It's, and it's a huge problem. And so when I started doing these pop-ups just this year, and I've been cooking for people, and it was just like a gift that I gave away. And then it kind of was getting to the point where I had to start selling it. And I was like, okay, every time I do a pop-up, I'll also donate as many meals as I sell. And then I'll make that many and deliver them to the homeless, and just know that they'll have a little bit of nourishment that's real food. It's not, here's my scraps. It's not here. It's something that was like made with the intention of making them feel better. And so I started doing that. And it's not just the homeless, right? It's like, a huge initiative for me in one of my goals is to be able to have a food truck that can go into these areas for the kids. Because some of the adults, you're not going to be able to get through to them. They're stuck in their ways. But for kids, they need to be able to see different options. They need to know that, $1 at McDonald's, which might be their only meal for the day. So I'm not like faulting anyone for this. It's just what's available. And so, if I could say, here's a $1 chickpea parm sandwich, and it tastes really good and it's good for you, as opposed to this, or, a fruit juice that's made of actual fruit that I just juiced for you. It's putting something cleaner into their system so that they're not foggy and they can feel like they have real energy. I mean, it's poison.
So if you don't mind, can you kind of go into the economics of it a little bit? Like, it's clearly you didn't start this journey off to try to like make a profit, but then you realize for it to be sustainable, you would have to kind of charge a certain set of people in order to like help others, right? So with that narrative, why can't I think like larger companies with a bigger budget, do pretty much the same thing essentially?
So they can, but we have to now look at capitalism as a whole, correct? So it's more expensive the way that we make food now, with all of the chemicals you have to buy, the factory farming, what you have to do to sustain that. I think I read the other day that there's 67 billion farm animals that are fed every day, but there's less humans on Earth and we can't find a way to feed them. So it's like, when you start looking at all of these different statistics and things, it's like, okay, I can't tell you what the economics is because I don't think we have a clear picture. I just know that there are different people that have set up some, partnerships over the years, and they make it work and it works for them. To shift that now means that those entire structures and systems would be basically dismantled. And now you're going to have, you're giving power back to your local farmer. So you're taking big corporation down. So I can't speak to that. I can say that eating the way that I eat is not cheap. I've found ways to make it cheap. To make a profit was never my intention in this journey. It really is like, I feel responsible to positively impact as many people that I can in my life from now until the day I die. Like, if I can make you feel better and if I can do something good for you and it makes you feel, so that has been my goal. And I've been, fortunate enough to, have a good career that can help balance that. The reason I started selling for profit was to balance it out a little bit. A can of chickpeas is 99 cents. I make these chickpea cutlets. It's a recipe that I developed over the pandemic, and it makes 6 cutlets per order. And it's 99 cents chickpeas, a cup of flour, which think of a thing of flour, right? I use unbleached, and onions and spices. It's not that expensive. So I've found ways, but then there's things that I really enjoy, right? Like I love, my organic asparagus, and I love this mayo that's $6.99. Like, it's ridiculous. But I don't have kids, so it's okay. Like, we make our concessions where we do. So I kind of took that and went all over the place with it, but I can't really answer the larger structure because it won't make sense to them because there's too many partnerships in place between pharma. I mean, I think the biggest customer of pharmaceuticals is the factory farming industry. So there's things that aren't going to fall apart based on what's good for people. And that's always been the case. I mean, it's just what it is.
That's very true. And I think it kind of goes back like the healthcare space where, so hospitals, they were fining I think the government fines hospitals. I think it's like through the ACA, I believe it is. They fine them for revisitive patients. If you leave the hospital and you come back, it's like they'll charge a hospital penalties depending on how many people do that over the time. What they've realized is hence why you're seeing a lot of like telehealth, kind of like Medicare, where like you get like a doctor visit over the phone or on a laptop or whatever it is. So like it's preventative, and that kind of helps people, manage their own healthcare and like not have to essentially go to the hospital when there's an actual issue, right? So for things of the nation says, well, we want people to, we see that there's a cost to this. And it seems like the only time like they've thought about the health of the American people is the fact that now it's costing the American people so much money. But it could have been avoided if there was more, to your point, like accessible foods that were cheaper, that were actually good quality, and not things that were, going to impact people with high blood pressure and diabetes and things of that nature. I actually got a scare the other day thinking I had like type 1 diabetes, and I got checked out by my aunt and I was completely fine, but it runs in my family. So, I've always been somewhat healthy, go to the gym and stuff, but I do now try to like watch what I eat more and more. I try not to eat, one, I really only drink water. I don't really drink a lot of sugary drinks. I try to, eat things that that is made from my home. If I do go out, I mean, I love sushi. That's probably the one thing I probably can never give up, but it's sushi. But I think I don't know, this climate, it seems like the only way for change is if it somehow is going to impact the entire country, just like how COVID did. And they realize not everyone can afford, to pay for a shot or do this, right? So what do? We have to make it accessible for everyone. Clearly, we found the money to make it accessible for anyone if you wanted to get a vaccine or to get tested. So I think in this country, we have the resources and we have what is necessary to make foods in these communities, especially for schools, to your point, in high schools or middle schools, for these kids with better access to better lunches, more affordable, and just at a better, better quality. I think we just don't, we're choosing not to, because to your point, the big corporations have, all these deals with Coca-Cola and vice versa.
So I want to go back to one thing that you said about it runs in your family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I necessarily believe that anymore. I think we might be predisposed to certain things, but if you look what you eat in your diet, and then you look at your family's diet, right? Because food is passed down through generations. How you eat, if we're conditioned in thought process and everything. So that's like something I'm doing a lot of research on right now, and trying to understand what really is genetics in what we're predisposed to, because your body might not be made to break down the foods that you're putting in it, and so it's more difficult for it to process. So it really, I think that's something that I would take a look at and just say, like I said, eating a plant-based diet isn't going to work for everyone. It's just not. We have such unique systems. It works for me, and it works for me, wonderfully. But there's some people that it won't work for. But I just kind of wanted to take a step back to that and just say, like, I think we need to take more responsibility and accountability for our health. And rather than, I think so many people, and this isn't like a dig towards you, but this is so many people, because I've worked in healthcare. My mom's been sick my entire life. And I've always been, you have this, you have that. And healthcare is so reactive. It's all symptom based. Oh, you're predisposed to this, so I'm going to treat this symptom. We never go to the root, ever. We never take a step back and say, what do you eat? What are your activities? What are your stress levels? I've been reading this book about, storing emotions in the body and how that turns into cancers and heart, and we store different emotions in different parts of our bodies and functions, and how that can, and you guys might think I'm crazy, but this is where I'm at. And our bodies are these energy force fields, right? And so it really comes down to is like, you might have type 1 diabetes, right? Or like you thought you were going to have that. Maybe you were holding stress in a certain area of your body that was making it like go a certain way. And maybe when you were eating something with that, it triggered it. Or maybe like alcohol, if you were drinking, a lot of people over the pandemic were drinking a lot. I didn't really drink at all. And I could see the differences in people's skin, in their, how they walk, how they're sluggish, energy. So there's just so many different factors. And it's really being honest with yourself at the end of the day and looking at yourself and being like, what am I actually doing? What makes sense? And what can I do to be more accountable to the life I want to live?
No, I actually 100% agree with that. I think, and to be fair, like coming from I'm first generation American, and my family there, like the foods we ate, it's not like what it is here, but we do eat a lot of like fatty rich foods for the most part as a culture. So that is a point. And we do drink a lot as a culture. My family per se doesn't drink a lot, but I do find like over the pandemic, I was drinking a lot more wine, and it's like just buying alcohol because it was cheaper. And I was like, oh, I'll just make it myself and I'll just overconsume. So I think I would just equate like, oh, I go to the gym, I work out 4 times a week, I'm fine. But, I wasn't getting enough sleep. I wasn't, eating properly constantly. And to your point, actually, there was a weekend where I was drinking quite a bit. And I think that the following weekend leading after that, I like my body was just not reacted the same. So I actually haven't drank in about 2-3 weeks. And like, I felt like back to my old self, like, amazing. So to your point, yeah, I'm glad you called me on that, but that's I actually do agree with that.
Yeah, alcohol is poison. Believe me, I had a lot of fun nights, but you get to a point where you get in your late 30s and you're like, oh, this isn't feeling so good at all anymore.
Yeah, that is true. That is
No,
true.
I felt it yesterday for sure. The drag on Saturday night, and I woke up. And I'm just like at this Mother's Day get together. I'm just like, oh man, like this
Yeah.
is too much of a headache right now for me to be at this party with. And I'm just like, oh god.
Mhm. You can't get out of Mother's Day.
And you can't,
Yeah,
you can't. Yeah. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, that like I think, and speaking to your points about like just growing out of something or habits of family eating, whatever. It's funny, like my dad's always been a big proponent of like eat healthy and everything. He's the person who's mainly been like that in my family. He's like, oh Frank, like make sure you eat your salad all the time. And always like joking around. He's like, eat that banana. Like even now, it's like he'll be like, yo, like I bought bananas and you're like they're going bad. What are you doing? But my problem is I know I have bad eating habits, like for sure. I think my biggest thing is, and what I would probably, what I probably should do to change it as well is to like eat like some of those healthy things, like fruits. I have no problem, like they taste good and everything like that. But like when it's just straight up broccoli or something straight up, I'm just like, I hate that. Like I just need, I need like, but if I had a good recipe, then I would do it. You know what I'm saying? And I need to get to that point where I start just looking up something. I need to start cooking. Like I'm not, like you said before, I'm a person who's been like so impatient that I really barely cook. I've been trying to do like Hello Fresh a little bit, where they send you the ingredients and they send you the instructions, and then you and you get into that. So like a stepping stone to get into cooking. But I definitely need to do more of that, because then like I already know, because I already know I have a problem. I joke around with Julius all the time. I'm like, yo, like I've been on like that fringe for like 5 years where I'm like, hey, like I could get in shape this summer. Like I have that thought. I'm like, I know I should change. And then I don't change. And the thing, it just continues like that. And like, I do have healthy meals once in a while, but it's not as consistent as it should be. And especially like for what you're supposed to have, it's definitely not on track, but I know what I have to change for sure.
Yeah, and you just have to get to the point where you feel like you have to do it. Like I'm 37, and it probably took me, like I said, up until like 4 years ago to really get into a strong workout routine. And like food wise, I was always pretty okay after like from like mid-20s on, but I mean, it has to click, and it has to click completely for you. Like like I said, there's a lot of different facets that come into it. I mean, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, like everything collided for me. I was not in a good place. And I knew something needed to change, and I kind of hit the point where it was like everything needs to change. And that was kind of my moment. But I hope that everybody has that moment where they realize that they get so shaken up that they're like, I have to shift gears here, because our bodies are so intelligent and they know when we're not going in the right direction. They give us so many warning signs. They give you so many, like, it's like your car dash, like the light indicator, like, oh, check engine, or do this. Like we get so many indicators of it's time to shift. It's time to change something. And I just hope that everybody, like my wish is that everybody has that aha moment and is like, oh my gosh, like this is all correlated. Like I don't feel good. I don't eat well. I'm depressed. I'm not dealing with this in my life. Like it's kind of like to get that moment where you can kind of pull it all together and really own your life. It's a good feeling.
So would you say now that, this stage in your life where it's like you've kind of gotten like the healthy habits in terms of like your food, your wellness in terms of like your mind? Because I think you mentioned like you meditate and you have like your mantras and things like that. Like, do you think like you're putting everything together, more now than you were in your 20s? Like at this stage in your life, you're like, you have a better grasp of who you are as a person.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm walking more into myself every day. Like, you set boundaries of like, I'm not going to do this. It really is like just in small intentional steps. And, I feel like I'm more me every time I wake up, and every time I say no to someone, or every time I say yes to something. And you start to think like, I've been there before. I don't want to feel like that again. Or, and that's those are like emotional indicators, or it's yes, 100% yes. And then also, I don't want to get too far away, but I do want to talk to Frank about broccoli. I have a really easy broccoli recipe.
Nice. Yeah.
If you just want to saute in some olive oil, salt and pepper, and nutritional yeast, it tastes like cheddar, and it's so good for you. It has B12 and folic acid in it. And just sprinkle that. It's like cheesy broccoli. It's delicious. You can put it over rice, quinoa, but it's super easy. So don't diss broccoli. This is my way to eat it all the time.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to just like steam broccoli and eat it. I mean, I would, but I don't. I would, I don't. Like, I want flavor. I want spices. Like, I'm not like, my stuff has to taste like something.
Yeah. No, I'll definitely take that recipe from you because that's, I think my biggest thing was also how it was, I guess how it was served, I guess, throughout my years with my family, or just how it was presented. I always was like, oh yeah, I'm going to eat this, like the fun food for like the chicken or whatever it's on the plate. He's like, oh, you got to like, and I think me and my sisters had that issue too. My one sister for sure. She'd be like the person that'd be like, like covering the salad with a little bit of a napkin, pretending like it's got like, and Dad's like, wait, you should eat the salad, Steph. What are you doing? So yeah, but like, yeah, to make it, but if it was, if it's a tasty, if it's prepared in a way like that, then like that's where I need to definitely move to and just get that going. Cause that's definitely, that's what would help, because I feel like most of the time I'd either just have like a bowl of like whatever it'd be prepared, like carrots, like cauliflower, broccoli, maybe you throw some dressing on it, but either way, I was just like, this still doesn't like, it needs to be, if it's cooked, like, cooked, that's probably the way to go. Like you just said, this is something like a little bit like it's a different texture for sure. If it's like cooked and like raw broccoli, that's where I struggle. It's hard to eat that.
Yeah,
Wait,
most
raw
people do.
broccoli.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were.
Is that what you grew up on? Is raw broccoli?
A lot, yeah. I just was like, this is, we rarely would have that cooked broccoli. I don't know why they did it, but like that.
It's better for you.
What?
It's better for you. It's more fibrous, and that was the point. Especially if your family's Italian. There's a lot of broccoli salad recipes, and so I get it. And you also have to remember, our parents were war babies. I mean, that was when all of this really processed food was really pushed on them. I mean, it was a result of World War I and II and getting food to the troops, and there were shortages, so everything was canned. I mean, we're trying to get away from all of that now. It's, who wants to eat food that's been sitting on shelves for months? I mean, how can that be good for your body? So our parents had a completely different way of understanding. I mean, we're fortunate that we can make these decisions, but I think it's also getting back to, what does this earth actually do? Like, is everything supposed to be made in a factory? No. Like, let's get back to like, so I'm not insulting your family at all, but same thing with mine. Everything was like a casserole. Everything came from a Campbell's can or was something like that. And I can't even imagine doing that now.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, like, what's your opinion on this is a little bit off topic, but when you said that like the earth, like I there's like a diet that people do, it's like it's like the paleo or something like that. Paleo
like
diet.
The hunters and gatherers.
Yeah. What is it?
My sister did it.
Yeah.
My sister did it. My sister has 4 kids, and she did it, and she looked great. She did really well on it. It's a lot of meat, and then berries and nuts, and it worked well for her. She liked it.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a personal experience, but I do understand that, and I'm a big proponent of the Mediterranean diet. Lean meat, fish, and so I don't do that aspect of it, but Mediterranean diet, everything else, they're really big on plant-based. I mean, anywhere you go in like, Italy, Greece, like it's falafels, it's eggplant, it's lentils, and you go to Morocco, like anything in that area. So I think that is kind of our best guide, and it makes sense because it's like the birthplace of like when people stopped wandering, like they actually stopped on like fertile soil, right? Because they could grow things.
Okay. do you think that some diets, so like paleo or like even like Whole30, like some diets are meant for like a certain period of time, like it's not meant to be sustained? Like paleo is no, like Whole30 is something where like you'll do it for like a month because it's so extreme, right? And then you kind of ease your way back into your normal diet, and you'll do that again as like a cleanse maybe months from now. Do you believe some diets are just designed for you to kind of, you know, cleanse your body essentially and not be like a whole thing where you do every single day?
I just don't believe, I don't subscribe to diets. I think it makes people think there's a start and a finish. Like everyone's like, oh, it's a lifestyle change, but it is. Like it really is. So if you're just like, okay, the Whole30, I think that's great. You do it for a month if you're trying to find out if you're allergic to something or what happens to your body. But like everybody's like, oh, I'm gluten-free. Like 1% of the population actually has, I'm dropping things here. Can you hear me still?
Oh yeah.
Like 1% of the population has celiac disease. Like all this gluten-free stuff is literally like, I think people are allergic to the pesticide that they're putting on wheat. It's like, so I understand when people are trying to eliminate things or to find out if they have food allergies, but I really think it starts with like, I'm going to replace one meal a day with something healthy, like small steps, because as humans, our brains can't take big shifts. And if they do, like, even if you do it for a month, you're going to go back to your habits. Like, it's just the human condition. Unless to get to where I am now in how I eat and what I eat, it has taken me so long to get a rhythm. Like, we're all on these algorithms. Like you have to find out what works, what doesn't work. Like it really, that's what I'll keep saying, but it's like intentional eating or like intentional activities.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Like even my brother, he's on a diet. Well, he, not to use the word diet, but he calls himself a flexitarian. So he flexes between what he needs to eat. So there'd be a week where he doesn't eat meat at all and he'll just eat vegetables and whatever. And then like he tries not to eat a lot of meat. So he's really trying to like find balance between like, you know, a lot of different things. And he's felt a lot healthier and his body's felt good for that. So I guess that substantive eating is working for him essentially, which has been pretty good. So.
And that's why I would never say, you know, people get uncomfortable when they're out with me and they order meat and I'm like, you're not affecting me. I mean, you're responsible for your body and if that works for you, it doesn't bother me. I love animals. You know, I did this, I couldn't do it, but I'm not gonna, you know, shame anybody. That's not my place. And I also want to preface with like, you know, I have strong opinions on like, you know, celiac or whatever. And that is it's opinions, right? Like it's, based on what I've kind of subscribed to. So I never want to insult someone by the decisions that they make for themselves at that time. Because I've made a lot of decisions throughout my life that worked for me at a time that I would never make now.
That's fair. That's very fair. So in terms of the goal of not just like your lifestyle, but like where you want to see like potentially like your company go, like where would you want to see that brand kind of be, and what's the ultimate goal for it to be? Like, do you want to be in every food store? Do you want to be at like what's the goal for yourself with it? And timeline wise, like do you have like in your mind like projected it's going to be, I'm going to be here in 5 years, this is where my company's going to be, and I'm going to be doing this. There's nothing else. It's like this is it. Like
I'm kind of just going with this. Like I said, like when we first started talking, is my goal in life is to positively impact as many people as possible. And I don't know if that means, so my dream is to open up a holistic wellness center where someone can come and heal. And whether that's through food or if it's through a therapist or if it's taking a hot yoga or Pilates class or sitting in a salt cavern, like I would love to have a destination where people can just come and heal. And I think that our healing is going to benefit all of us. And I think it's all tied to a lot of trauma, ancestral trauma, conditioning. And I think that food has been the Band-Aid for a lot of that. So once you take that out and replace it with something, it kind of opens up. So I guess that's my goal. I never want to be in I don't want like a brand that I have in a grocery store. I don't want to be commercialized like that. I want people to feel good. I don't want people to be coming from a hurt place all the time or be sad. Like anybody that I know, I'm like, come over, I'll cook for you. Like, my neighbor's father died a few months ago, and I was like, oh, I'll make you like a heart chakra milk to like heal your, like, and it's just little things like that. And you see people's mind change. And I don't know if it's the food, but it's the act, it's the nourishment, it's the, I gave you something that's gonna like make you feel good, but it's also gonna work with the processes in your body. And the heart chakra milk is really just rose powder and oat milk, but the rose powder, it's good for your blood. So just to kind of preface that, I mean, I put different words on things, but I want to touch as many lives as I can in a positive way. Like I want people to feel better because they've known me.
Gotcha. I think you are doing a good job. I mean, you've been posting a lot more on your social media, especially, wrapping up, just kind of everything you're doing. And I think, can you give the people like when's going to be like their next pop-up or when's the next thing?
Yeah, so I don't have my next pop-up schedule, but I did just roll out a catering portion of, so I started my business outside of, so I have Happy Healthy PB, which is like my food blog, and that is my website. I'm going to be transitioning that, and I started the name of my business is The Family Tree, and it's based off of healing from your roots. So I'm basically taking things that people grew up with, those meals, and veganizing them so that they can still have that comfort, but it also heals their body. So I opened up some catering. It's been like exploding. I had no idea that this many people were interested, or I think just because like so many stars and athletes are going vegan, everybody wants to try it. Yeah. So I'll probably do my next pop-up, not in this area. It'll probably be in South Jersey because I'll be at the shore this summer. But I'll be catering, and I always, if anybody reaches out to me, like a friend of mine, her husband has cancer, and I've been meal prepping for him for over a month now. And I'm always kind of evaluating case by case what I can take on and what I feel that I can actually contribute. But yeah, I have my catering, which is by appointment. I think I'm fully booked for June at this point, but everything's on my Instagram right now. But once I get my website rolled out, it's just gonna take a little longer, just trying to curate the menus and what I do. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on right now.
That's phenomenal. The only question I didn't want to ask was when you said the catering, is it going to be, it's going to be custom for every person that orders through you essentially, or?
So I have 2 menus that I posted that is where I'd like to stay. But then of course someone reaches out to me and they're having a kids party. So I'm like, well, it's kids. I mean, if I can make them love vegan food, then that's great. So I did a special menu for them. But like I said, I'm a creative person at heart. So anytime I get the opportunity to like look at something and like say like, oh, what can I create for that? Or, what like gets my juices flowing and whatever, then I'll take it like on a case by case scenario. A restaurant just reached out to me and said they want to do like a Meatless Monday event. So I'm like, well, we got to do something like special for your restaurant. So I take on a lot more than I probably should, but yeah, it's kind of like ever evolving. I don't have one set thing be like, hey, this is what's going on. I'll be like, this is what's going on right now.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, so I know you're booked up, but I mean, me and Frank, we would definitely love to put an order in. Just let us know, and we'll definitely order from the Frank and Jules Podcast.
Listen, you guys can have it on the house. I just need to figure out what would be the best thing for you guys to try, because I feel a lot of pressure that you're going to love something vegan, and it has to be easy so that you guys can recreate. So let me think about it.
Well, you did say, so Frank, just so you know, Patti was actually going to make a flatbread for the last podcast, and we're going to have that on. So to be fair, we would love a flatbread, and then we'll probably do we'll do a whole like taste test on here. And that'd be kind of cool. Be
I
nice.
like that idea. Yeah, flatbread. I mean, I love that flatbread already. So I mean, if you don't like it, you're an idiot. I don't know. Yeah.
Listen, I can do, yeah. All right, so we'll do a flatbread.
Okay. Perfect. So, Patti, we want to thank you for gracing us with your time and just the positive energy and just clearly, like, you know, your goal is to help, you know, human beings just be their best self. And I truly want to thank you because we actually had a conversation prior to this and we got into the weeds about like all these things, some seaspiracy and all these things, and wealth and health, wellness and meditation, all these things, which is great. I didn't think we were kind of on the same wavelength there, which has been pretty great. So I do want to thank you. I think I think a lot of the things that you mentioned, human beings, we can fix ourselves without really having to go to a doctor a lot of the times. And a perfect example is I used to have like a lot of like back pains and all that stuff. And I started meditating and stretching for the past 3 years, and I'm more flexible now than I was in my early 20s. So I do think there's things that the body can heal itself. We just have to kind of give it to your credit, you know, diesel instead of, or, you know, the best kind of fluids that we need for our bodies and not kind of, you know, skimp on that. So I think that's a great insight to, you know, being our best selves.
Agreed. Yeah.
Awesome. So we want to thank you for coming on, Patti.
Thanks for having me.
Love having you on. And
Yeah.
We're definitely going to have a food test. So Patti's going to create this flatbread for us, and we'll definitely have her back on for a quick thing just to do this taste test. And yeah, thank you so much, Patti. We really, really appreciate it.
Awesome. Nice to see you both.
Thank you, Patti.
Thanks, Patty. Thanks for your time. I'll see you.
Thanks. Bye.